if you haven't already gone through the reading material for this chapter and taken a look at the slides, at least up through the slide about the stable stella and the ocean motion, stop this recording and do that now and think about what's on that discussion question slide, then come back to this recording. So I created a sort of ridiculous scenario where there are two boats that are identical in every way that have crossed the Atlantic Ocean many times, one of which I called the Stable Stella, has never had any problems. It never capsizes, it never has sunk, of course. Uh, it's traveled in all sorts of different kinds of weather conditions, hurricanes, cold weather, warm weather, you name it. The Stable Stella has no problems crossing the ocean. Another boat has crossed at the exact same times and the exact same conditions as the Stable Stella. We call it the Ocean Motion. And that boat has a propensity to capsize, and it is capsized several times only to be turned back upright by the Stable Stella so that it can continue its maybe fruitless attempts to cross the Atlantic Ocean without any difficulty. And then the thought experiment is you're going to have a party that may involve people being rambunctious and running around on the boat. Which boat would you want to take? I'm hoping that you chose the Stable Stella for this trip because the Stable Stella has shown that it is very, very difficult to make it capsize. In fact, all of the things that nature has thrown at it did not make it capsize. The Ocean Motion, on the other hand, has capsized on its own without the help from any partying people many, many times. That means that the Ocean Motion is unstable. It's easy for it to change its orientation. It's easy for it to capsize. So if you're on that boat, even though it has capsized many times just due to natural causes, if you have a crazy party on that boat, it's the one that's probably likely to capsize again. Whereas if you were on the Stable Stella, which had never capsized, you might have a reasonable expectation that you could have your crazy party and you would be just fine. It wouldn't capsize. So why this particular thought experiment in a course on energy and on environment and climate change? Well, the Earth's climate has changed a lot in its 4.5 billion year history. So comparing it to those two boats, which boat is the Earth's climate most like? It's most like the Ocean Motion. It has shown that the climate, the temperature of the planet can change dramatically due to natural perturbations such as volcanic activity and continental drift and changes in the tilt of the Earth's axis and subtle changes in its orbit. It's like the Ocean Motion. Natural perturbations have caused the Earth's climate to change. If it were like the Stable Stella, all of those natural things would not have resulted in the climate of the planet changing at all. Now people come along, and people are having the equivalent of that crazy party on the surface of the boat by doing things to the planet that have the potential to affect the climate. If the history of the Earth's climate were such that it had never changed, in spite of all of the perturbations that nature is throwing at it, then it would be reasonable to say the Earth can take it. We can pump lots of CO2 in the atmosphere. We can change the reflectivity of the planet by replacing forests with deserts or concrete, and it won't matter to the climate because the planet has had 4.5 billion years of all sorts of crazy activity, and that didn't change the climate. But that's not the case. In fact, the planet's climate has changed dramatically, sometimes quite suddenly, and therefore it's like the Ocean Motion. It's an unstable system. If you've got an unstable system, that means that any sort of perturbation poking that you're doing to the system is likely to result in a change to that system. Another analogy would be a forest. Forests catch on fire from lightning because they've caught on fire naturally is precisely why we don't want to go in there and be careless with matches. If forests never caught on fire from natural causes such as lightning or sunlight being focused through a drop of dew on a leaf, then it would be reasonable to think, well, if those things aren't making the forest burn down, my careless campfire isn't going to make it burn down either. But we do have to be careful about our campfires precisely because we know that forests are likely to catch on fire because nature has done it for us. And nature has done the same thing for the climate. It has shown that the Earth's climate is very sensitive to perturbations and has changed dramatically over the history of the planet. So that's the point behind the fable of the ocean motion and the stable stela. Think about that. Go back and read about the history of the Earth's climate in the first chapter, the first couple of chapters, especially these very dramatic and rapid changes in the climate that have occurred over the history of the planet.